Well, thanks so much for joining us today. So I'll start off with introductions because I know we've got a few more people logging in. You're probably at this point wondering, why are we making this change? Who is my real source? What is this going to mean for me? We're going to go through all of that. We're going to go through some great new tools and enhancements, and of course, more data that you're going to see, which will mean more listings, more comps, and hopefully more closed sales for you. So first and foremost, my name is Colleen DeLang. I am on staff here at My Real Source. But the really important man to know is Brian Alford, who is our Chief Technology Officer. He's going to take you through all the important stuff. He's been working hard behind the scenes to make sure that all the data is flowing properly into your system, building all the great new tools that you're going to get. I do want to point out just a couple housekeeping things before we turn it over to Brian. In your GoToWebinar panel, which right now probably is minimized at the right-hand side of your screen, usually has a little red or reddish-orange arrow at the top. If you simply click on that arrow, it will open up a panel. That's where you're going to put in any questions that you have today. So if you need to see something again as we go into more of the live demonstration, or you have those technical questions for Brian, simply just type them in the questions box and we'll go ahead and get them answered. Most probably we'll ask your question to the group because we know if you're thinking it, probably others are as well. So feel free at any time to put those questions into the question box. Also, there are handouts that are attached. There's going to be some important dates that are given. In the handout that says conversion, it will give you all the dates and basically the whole presentation of what Brian's covering today. Also, you'll find new data sheets. There's a single page data sheet and a traditional data sheet. We're going to talk a lot more about that, but just think of that GoToWebinar panel as kind of a resource for you as we get started. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the man who makes all the exciting stuff happen, Mr. Brian Alford.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's see. Okay, just a little overview, or what's on the agenda today is really what does this relationship mean by coming on board with My Real Source. You know what? I'm actually gonna shut my camera off so you can see everything. So what does that relationship mean? What to expect? Important dates, as Colleen had mentioned. How to prepare. This is going to be your homework, and the education and training that we can provide UPAR. Okay, the conversion. And what we're doing here is we're going to be moving you from the Upper Peninsula Association Paragon to the My Real Source Paragon. Now, one of the advantages by doing that is we're able to integrate more products, offer more products, and so on. And we're going to run through some of the benefits of coming onto our platform. Right now, we're running in parallel, and what that means is you're going to continue to enter listings in your current system, and they'll automatically flow into the new MLS system. And also, we have reached out to those IDX and syndication vendors about this change. And what that means is they're going to have to stop pulling the data from your current MLS system and start pulling it from ours, where we can distribute your data. As of last week, we've been able to offer your data to these vendors. So I think a few of them have switched, but we continue to send them reminder notices so that your websites and third-party products are still running. Okay, the vendor experience. Now, this is part of the reason your leadership has decided to come on board with us. We've been doing this for over 12 years. We've done it for, I think we're at 9 association MLSs. And one of the advantages that you get by coming on board is you retain all of that autonomy that you had on your other platform, and you inherit all of these new functions and benefits by coming onto this new platform. And that means you're going to retain your branding, your fields, communication, rules. So all of that is maintained and in this on this new platform. Plus, you get support from REALTORS. And one of the advantages, and I'll get to that towards the end of this presentation, is we provide one phone number for all the products. So that includes one phone number for Paragon, one phone number for Cloud CMA, and showing time. So those are some of the products that you're going to be using. So you could just dial our support number and we can answer questions from any of those products. Some of the integrations within Paragon and some of the products that you're going to be getting or that you currently have are Paragon, showing time. I'll get into what to expect with Paragon and showing time and Cloud CMA going forward, as well as HomeSnap. And then some of the advantages by coming on to REALTORS is some of the advanced features that you'll get in HomeSnap. Zip form, you'll continue to use zip form. The MLS connector will start pulling from REALTORS, so they'll pull your data from REALTORS, so that option is still going to be available, as well as the MLS data sheets are going to be introduced into zip form as well. BSNA, this is something new. Deep linking, the deep linking will be introduced for RPR, so you'll be able to link where there are BSNA records and RPR records. That deep linking, and I'll show you shortly what that looks like. Plus, you'll get tax autofill, and this is an optional feature that you'll get in listing entry, and I'll go into that shortly. Listing entry won't start until April 4th. That's a Monday. Okay, some of the deep linking that we've introduced is HomeSnap and the single property website. And the single property website is something new. Now you have HomeSnap, and we provide deep linking to the HomeSnap record, but we also provide a product that's called the single property website. And what this does is it allows you to market this on social media. The form factor is it scales for between mobile to a full desktop. And what we saw is, Paragon does this also, but we found this was a little more of an elegant way to share your property on multiple social media sites. And you can see the HomeSnap linking as well. Okay, now you have HomeSnap today, but what you don't have is the premium side, which allows you to edit listings. So you can actually edit the status, the price, or marks fields, directions, and so on, as well as access to the associated documents. So those are functions that you will get shortly after the cutover date of April 4th. So we're still trying to determine when that can be introduced. And the BSNA linking. You'll see something, and Colleen likes to call this a trash can, but really what it is a government pillar. It's been squished down to fit into the icon size links that are in Paragon. So where there are records in BSNA, you'll see that linking. Now, this does not include any cost for BSNA. So what it does is it introduces the convenience of the linking directly to the property. In addition to some of those new products, single property website, BSNA linking, we're introducing data sharing. Now, today, all you have in your current system is the Upper Peninsula. But as of last week, in the new system, you will have access to Bay County, Clare Gladwin, East Central, Greater Shiawassee, Lenawee County, REALTORS, Saginaw Board, Southeastern Border. Now that's what it is of today. So when you log in, you'll see that data when you do a search down in the Lower Peninsula. Now, we were asked to talk to the Eastern UP about data sharing, and their answer was they are not interested at this time. So we put forth the effort to talk to them, as well as and the upper part of the Lower Peninsula, which is Emmett County, and then AKC, which is Northern Michigan MLS, as well as Water Wonderland. And the door is open. We're willing to build it out. It's just getting them to say yes at this point. Okay. One of the big parts that, is there a question?
There was a question. How many MLSs currently do we not have on our platform?
How many do we not have?
Yeah, because I know, I think the question was more, we know that you data share with a lot of people. How many MLSs are really still left? And I think you kind of said it, but maybe you can tell them again.
Well, what we're looking to get is the Eastern UP, Emmett, and AKC, which is over here, and the Water Wonderland. Now, we do have a data share with Northern Great Lakes, but there is a cost because that's information that comes from outside of the MLS. So if we pay, it's something that we just kind of pass the cost on to you. So in the future, if you're interested, that's something you could definitely jump on board with. But as it stands right now, the data sharing that you get is with what's listed right there on the screen.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Wisconsin data. We found enough data to really justify adding all the Wisconsin counties, 94 areas and municipalities and model cities, 27 school districts that account for last year. There was 426 listings that were active, pending, closed of last year for over 53 million in volume. So that was definitely a substantial amount of listings to not ignore at this point. So I found it prudent to to actually map that data into the MLS system. So rest assured, for those of you that are multi-state licensed, that data is available in the new MLS system today. In addition to your data, we've also introduced the following, or added the following non-standard fields. Now, I call them non-standard because they don't comply with the real estate standards, but they were noted as very important fields, so we added them as well. And when I said non-standard, what is established as a standard is what is named under RESO. And RESO stands for the Real Estate Standards Organization. This is a NAR-created organization. And as a NAR organization, as the UP being a NAR organization, you have to comply with these data standards. And those standards are relative to field names, the types of fields, the way that we move data from one place to another, are NAR mandates. So we take care of that, but part of that includes either changing or moving fields now and in the future to maintain these standards. So as we make those changes over the coming year, and we'll be sending you notices that, look, these changes are coming. It's something that we have to do because NAR mandates it. And in order to stay compliant, we have to make these changes. So stay tuned. It's just something that we provide as an MLS service. And it's something that we provide is maintaining your NAR compliance. Okay, missing required fields. Now, this isn't something you have to worry about today, but part of what we're talking about is what to expect on April 4th. And you're going to get hit with these fields. And what we're trying to do is minimize a lot of this with the conversion, but we can't convert everything, or at least there wasn't a target for us to pull that information over. So when you modify a listing on April 4th, this might be a relatively common screen until you begin entering listings in the system. So it might look a little daunting at first, but rest assured it will get easier. Again, this isn't something you have to worry about until April 4th. Some other notable points of difference is you had separate rental classes, and what that means is you had a separate, or currently have a separate residential rental and commercial rental. Well, we offer rentals in all classes, so that includes residential, vacant land, multifamily, commercial, and it's something that is essentially, it's either a sale or a rental. By selecting rental, then you're now required to enter what would be lease-based fields, and the same goes with the sale. So it's whether it's relevant or not, and it allows you to enter the same level of detail as you would for a sale, just depending on the whether it's a sale or a rental. The other notable points are the statuses. Now it looks like we pretty much have a one-to-one for your statuses. It's just a difference in name. Now you're pending with contingency, pending backup encouraged, and pending with kickout. We're actually active statuses, and what that means is they still accrue days on market. So those equivalents would be our standard KSCA, which is keep showing contingency applies. And then there's actually a contingency field that is supplemental and defining what the contingency is. Pending backup encouraged, we're using the ABO, which is a RESO standard of accepting backup offers. And the pending kickout, which is a contingent status again. You can note that again in the supplemental contingency field. Withdrawn is equivalent to conditionally withdrawn, which means it's either held or it's still under contract. It's just being taken off the market. Cancel that's it, avoided agreement, unconditionally withdrawn. And sold will be closed. Also, you'll notice there's another status, there's another status, coming soon. Now, your board does not currently use that. Not all data shares do, but some of them do use the coming soon, and you'll notice that status in there. And typically they get anywhere from 2 to 7 days, depending on the board or the MLS rules, if they do participate or use the coming soon field. So you'll notice those. And by the way, coming soon statuses are considered active status, and they do go out to IDX. So if you are doing business in a region that does use coming soon, it might be important to note that that is something that would be seen on IDX sites, Zillow, etc. Also, we do have an original MLS field. We did retain those original MLS numbers. So if you use the field original MLS field, you can actually search by the original listing IDs that are in your UPAR Paragon. Post-conversion. Right now, we're currently working on a number of things that can't be completed until after April 4th. Your bathrooms, we had to split up because they were quarter, halves, and 3/4, and we had to find a place for those. That's something we're still working on. Showing time, you'll continue to use showing time up until Sunday evening, and you'll start using showing time. You'll continue to use showing time in your current MLS system until Sunday evening. Beginning Monday morning, showing time will switch over into the new MLS system. So on Monday, April 4th, it'll probably be late morning before noon Eastern time. The showing time resource will be available, as well as the showing scheduler links. Cloud CMA, We're still working with Lone Wolf to get an ETA on that conversion. So hopefully we can get this done sooner than later, but I'm still waiting for them to give us a conversion date. HomeSnap Pro Premium, again, that's the same one. We're waiting for HomeSnap to switch your entitlements over to our entitlements. And BSNA, that's some internal programming that I have to do. So that's something that I most likely will not have completed until some point at the end of April. And the same goes with the single property website. So stay tuned for those. Some of the most important things to consider right now with this conversion is getting Paragon converted and showing time, and we try to get the others as closely as possible. But there's just a lot of things that can't be done until post-conversion or April 4th. Okay, important milestone dates. And some of this I've mentioned already, but it bears repeating, is parallel. So you're going to continue to do listing maintenance and entry in your current MLS system. And remember, those listings that are entered in your current MLS system, Paragon, will automatically import to the RealTors Paragon. We've already imported your clients and contacts. So take a look at those, make sure everything is already there. Now, come Friday, April 1st, Paragon, your current Paragon system will be read only, and that means no listing entry or editing anywhere. So that's it. We have to lock your system down over that weekend. So if you have any listing updates, anything like that, try to get it done by no later than Friday morning, because at some point Friday morning we are going to lock it down and you won't be able to edit or update anything until that April 4th. But over that weekend, you can continue to use showing time through the UPAR Paragon system or the showing time app. Now come Monday, April 4th, that is what we call the cutover. Is there a question?
Yeah, so someone said contacts came over, but it seems that the emails did not. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, that was reported. We're actually working on that right now as we speak. Yeah. Okay, now come April 4th, the cutover. You're fully on board at that point. At some point, like I mentioned before, between 11 a.m. Eastern and 12 noon, we will bring your listing maintenance online in the new MLS system, and you'll be able to enter and edit listings regardless if they were entered in the other system or not. And what it will allow you to do also is to enter your photos, full listing maintenance. All of that is going to be available that Friday morning. Now, you will still have access to the UPAR Paragon system, but it's going to be static or read only. And the purpose behind that is we've done our best to import every piece of data that we could, but if something's missing, I believe the best resource is sometimes the agents to actually go back and look and make sure that, hey, this is definitely missing. We can verify it ourselves as agents. Instead of me looking at just raw data, we can actually look at it in the MLS system. So that gives you an opportunity to look back at historical records and validate anything in the past that might need to be corrected in the new system. And as I mentioned, showing time will be available in RealTors Paragon some point in that late morning, early afternoon. Okay, now what you need to do, and this is the homework that I talked about. Your preparation involves exporting the saved searches from Paragon, and I'll get into that shortly, and then importing those saved searches into the new RealTors Paragon. And I'm asking you to verify the accuracy of your listings. Only you know your listings better than anybody else, and I need your eyes to verify that everything came over complete and accurate. And if it is not accurate, you could simply click on that corrections button, and I see that note. And with that corrections button, I get everything about the property except what is wrong. So just explain what it is. I see who you are, and that way I can get back and correct the data that you're reporting. And as mentioned, those contacts were imported, but it looks like we're still working on those email addresses. So I honestly expect those to be in by the end of the day, if not tomorrow. Okay, exporting safe searches. Unfortunately, there's no neat way of doing this. This wasn't something that we could import. So the only way to do this is to actually pull up those safe searches and grab that information that's in the criteria summary. So take that information, and if you could do it side by side, great. This is an opportunity to clean up maybe searches that are no longer used. So grab those active ones and import them and associate them to the clients. And what we also did is we reproduced the all fields detail that you have in your current MLS system, which appears to be your default report. So I recreated that the best I could, and you'll find that report under specialty views, under reports, under specialty views. And I always feel like we've done enough of these conversions to know that it helps to give you something familiar to look at the data. You can, just like in your other Paragon system, you can create your own custom reports or use another default. It's entirely up to you. But this, I like to have you look and know where that data is. I don't want you to have to search, especially on a report that you're not familiar with yet. So please utilize this report. Look at your listings. You're welcome to look at everybody else's listings and freely use that corrections button. Your feedback helps me in improving your data. And if you're not sure what to look at, or if everything looks good, I would ask you just to focus on the location fields, the location-based fields. And that is the area field, the municipality field, the mail city, school district, and geolocation, which, in other words, on the map. Is there a question?
Yep, we had two questions. One, how far back will the history go? So if we're bringing everything over, how far back will that go?
All of it. We are not missing anything. And one of the advantages to having a common vendor like Black Knight in this case is not only are we getting the history, but we are getting the full detailed audit logs. We can't always get that by any other conversions, but we're able to get this. And what this does is it tells us exactly who and when and what was changed exactly in the greatest detail. So this is something that MLS staff uses to verify whether something was accurately, modified or modified by whom. And it might not seem like a lot right now, but at some point in the past, that information gets called upon, and we felt like it was important enough to bring it over, but it did entail a lot more work. But so to answer your question, we have grabbed every single piece of historical data from your MLS system into this one. So rest assured that information's there. If you suspect otherwise, let support know, let your board know, and we'll look into it.
One more question, and I know you touched on this, but just maybe you can go over it one more time. Somebody had the question, I have a new listing coming up on April 1st. Does this mean I can upload it into my RealTors instead of the UPAR Paragon, or I can't input the new listing at all from the 1st to the 4th? So maybe you can just touch on that again.
Well, like I said, you have until the morning of April 1st. So I would stress that you get that property in the morning of, and I mean morning of, in other words, before 9 a.m. Get that property in, and it will import automatically. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait until Monday morning to enter it in the new MLS system. Any other question?
One, but I think you're coming up to it next, so I'm not going to ask it.
The login?
Yeah, it's what it was.
Yep. We tried to make this easy on everyone. You're going to log in at the new site, and you're just simply going to add a capital U and a capital P before your current login in the new system. Remember, it's case sensitive, so everything else is the same. Your password is the same. Just add that UP at the beginning of your login. If you can't get in, give support a call or an email, and we'll get you in. We can either reset your password or we could send you your password. But remember, staff will only do this if you can't get the forgot password to work, then contact support, and we will only send your password to the email address on file. And one other thing about support, as I mentioned before, this is the single support line that you need for all of the products that we provide. And that's 7 days a week, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Classes and training. Now, this is one of the other huge benefits by coming onto our platform is we take training very serious. And in addition to the basic classes, we go into advanced classes. As you can see, we go into Paragon Connect, Collaboration Center. We go into public records. If you use that product, we go into Showing Time, HomeSnap, as well as specialty classes that show you how to pull all of that together with lead generation and social media. So we show you how to take all of these tools and build your business. So it's a big piece of something we provide, and we're offering new classes all the time. And as members coming on board this platform, you're entitled to a lot of these classes. So I would encourage you to take advantage of them. And I think that's it for me.
All right. Well, if you have any questions for Brian, now is a great time to put them in the questions box. That again would be minimized on the right-hand side of your screen. There are also 3 handouts that are there, what Brian just covered, along with all the important dates, and some of the information that I'm going to show you as far as the new data sheets and new products and some exciting reasons that you've made this change. So again, I don't see any more questions. I think you did a great job.
Yeah,
Brian.
and I want to remind everybody, grab those handouts, but if you don't, if you log into the new system, they're all under MLS Docs. So they're there as well. I'm going to talk to your association about adding that URL on your site, so it makes it easier for everyone to log in there.
Perfect. All right, and I'm going to show you where that MLS Docs area is.
Okay, wait, we got a couple of questions, and I'm just going to answer some of these. What entries will be mandatory? We're going to try to maintain what you have in your current MLS system, which out of the gate, you're probably not going to have so many mandatory, but I did cover that with the number of fields that it's going to ask you that are missing. So those are some of the mandatory fields. The data sheet, take a look at the data sheet. Those are required fields. But as your own MLS or association, you will have your rules for what is mandatory. So that's something to note under your association or MLS rules. Okay, that's it.
I think I did the other ones. I just hadn't removed them from there. So great job, though, Brian. You covered a lot of great information. So while Brian gets all the hard technical work, I always get the fun side. I get to show you why you're making these changes and some of the new great features. So as I mentioned, I teach for many of the associations, but a little bit about me is I've also been an agent for 22 years now. So I'm going to show you some of my favorite features and why, of course, getting more data and is showing you more listings, getting more comps is so important. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of flip screens. Before I go into that though, I do want to point out that this is recorded. So if you've missed anything along the way, don't worry. I'm going to kind of do a hands-on demo of some of the new stuff too. So if, you know, tomorrow you're like, how did that lady with the fuzzy hair get to that again? All of this is recorded and you can actually go back and watch it anytime at your own, basically your own playlist on our channel. So what I did is we set up a YouTube channel. It's My RealTors Media. And I set up a playlist which is going to contain this class, and going forward it'll contain all the other classes. So what we're starting out with right now is the MLS basics, the stuff you really need to know in the conversion, what to look for as we go in to that cutover period. But then down the way, we're going to have classes like how to input a listing quickly, some time-saving tips and techniques, how to promote your listings with your new single property website, how to use things like the Collab Center so that you can quickly and easily set up those buyers so they automatically get any new properties that come on the market. So basically your playlist is where you're kind of going to use it as a resource going forward so that you have all these great videos. It will also include our tips and tricks series. We'll show you, 2 and 3 minute videos. They come out every other week showing you a tip or trick on something in Paragon to make it even easier. So one of the big changes that I think that you'll enjoy in Paragon is, one, your board will now control this center section. So you'll see all the upcoming information, but you're going to find that you have more enhancements than you previously did. Now, I will tell you, I generally have moved around my Paragon dashboard because I have a little OCD and I sort of like everything in my own order. But one of the features that I really enjoy that Brian actually created for us is this full addresses field. So everybody, when you log in, you generally have an address field, nothing special about that. But let me tell you what is special about the full addresses field. I was getting a lot of buyers who were going on Zillow or other IDX sites, and they were coming back and calling me up with 10 or 15 different addresses. I was on the phone with them. I wanted to look at them with them. So I was going in and individually typing in all of these addresses. And I thought, sheesh, there has to be a better way to do this. They're finding the information faster than I can. And that did not work for me. So Brian said, well, what if we built a full addresses field that would give you up to 30 addresses in one field? You could hit enter, return all the information, and simply text it over to the buyer from there. And I thought, that's brilliant. So that's exactly what he did. Now, if you don't have the full addresses field when you log in, I'm going to show you how to add it, but I do want to show you exactly what it does. So if I go over to the full addresses field in my quick search, I could start typing in, let's say the buyer called and he's sitting in front of 1871 Cove Street. I can maybe also call and he wants information on 123 Main Street. Maybe he's looking at 356 Cherry Street, whatever it happens to be. Now, the unique thing about this is I can just hit enter and add up to 30 in one field so I can pull them all up at one time. But what makes this actually work is whether this is Cove Lane, Cove Street, Cove Boulevard, it has a built-in wildcard behind it. That means it's going to pull anything. So if it's Cove Way, Cove Street, it's still going to pull it up. But then you have those buyers who are sitting in front of a house and they say, you know what, I'm not sure if this is on North Cove or South Cove. I'm right on the corner. You can actually put an asterisk before the word Cove and it will pull up that property, whether it's on South Cove or North Cove, to ensure that you're pulling up all the data. Now, I love that because it makes it really simple for me to find everything at once. If they're in front of the home, most probably it's either pending or active. So I could even go down to statuses and I could say, just show me the actives or the pending, and then I'm only seeing exactly what I want. So you can even use that to filter it down even further. So I can say, maybe I just want to see what's active and what's pending. Now I can see I've got those search results. I hit search and I can pull those up. Makes it a whole lot easier. If you do not have the full addresses field and you want to be able to do that, and by the way, a little cheat from an agent who likes shortcuts, if you are getting an email from a buyer and they've got 10 addresses that they found in Zillow, just hit forward on that email. Make sure you have commas in between the addresses. Simply copy and paste them into this field so they're even separated by commas. So it's a really easy field to copy and paste in. If you log into Paragon and you don't have the full addresses field, you can simply go to the gear or the widget at the top of your search. And by the way, most everything in Paragon has a way to customize it. That's kind of the beauty of the system. So if I want to add full addresses in, I'm simply going to click on that gear. And I'll just pull mine out since I already have it in here, just so you can see how it works. So I'm going to say I want to pull in full addresses. I can simply type in the word full, check off full addresses, add it to my search. And by the way, I can actually drag and drop that exactly where I want it so that I'm not always scrolling to the bottom when I'm on the phone with someone. Now I can go ahead and simply apply that. My full addresses is right here for me to use anytime I want it. I've actually added that to my quick search and my traditional search. Another field that you may want to add, as Brian mentioned, there's a field called original MLS number. Now, really, quite honestly, as an agent, most of the time, I am just going right up to the top here and typing in a property address if I'm just trying to find one particular property. So let's say I'm looking for 205 Lakeshore. I can start typing in right up here at this power search, 205. I can quickly see all the 205 Lakeshores and pull them up. Actives and pendings are always on the top, so I can quickly find that fast. By the way, this works for an agent name and an MLS. However, let's pretend for a moment you have an old UPAR Paragon. We're going to call it UPAR Paragon versus the My Role Source Paragon, just to keep them straight. The UPAR Paragon MLS number, and you want to be able to find it by that number. Now, most of the time, back in the day, 22 years ago when I got my license, we did everything by listing number. Now we really do most things by address. But if you still want to be able to search by that original MLS number, you can. You can go to that quick search and customize, just like I showed you earlier, and you can actually add in the original. I would just type in the word original, and you'll find the original MLS number. If you check that off and add it, that will allow you to search by the old UPAR MLS number. So now I can go ahead and apply that, and I'm able to search by that old UPAR number. Now, again, most people I think today use the addresses, but just in case you ever need it, that's there. Now, just to reiterate, Brian, when he mentioned that old system on April 4th is going to be in kind of what we call a flattened version. It's still going to be there. You can still go back and look at things. It's just kind of in a read-only state. So it's not going away. The information will still be there. But what we do want to make sure is when we go into cutover, all of your information looks good. It's carrying over to all the right fields. You guys did have some unique fields, as Brian mentioned, so we want to make sure everything is flowing properly and looks great before that cutover. So in order to do that, we do need your help. And the easiest way to do that is to go right to your market monitor and go to your info. This is a great way to check all of your listings at once, your closed sales, things like that. So if I want to check over my information on my listing, I'm just going to go to where it says listings, click on the number of listings that you have, whether it's 10 or 1 or whatever it is, and that's going to open up your listing so that you can check and make sure that everything's carrying over properly. Now, I use this particular report. As Brian mentioned, what we tried to do is recreate your exact report so that when you go in, it looks just like the report that you're used to. So how do you make that happen? You can go right over to reports over here on the right, and under specialty views, which is right down here, you're going to see the UPAR. Let me find it quickly. Maybe I already added it to my favorites, I think. I did. Done this class a few times. Looking for it quickly. You're going to see the UPAR. Why am I not seeing it here?
I saw it. You scrolled right back.
I probably did.
Right there. Stop. It's below Claire Gladwin.
Thank you. I'm looking and looking. So it's called the UPAR All Fields Data. So it's your actual report so that when you go in, it mimics what you're used to. Obviously, I know as an agent that change is hard. We all hate change, right? So we want to make this as seamless as possible. But here's your chance to go in and review all the information on your home report to make sure it looks just like you want it to. If there's something that's not correct, let's say a photo is coming over wrong, or let's say no photos are showing up, all you want to do is simply go to this corrections button at the top. This is what Brian referenced earlier. This is going to allow Brian to, he already knows what the address is. He already knows who's reporting it. So you don't have to fill all that information out. All you have to do is tell us what's wrong, and that's going to allow us to look and see why that information didn't flow properly. So again, you don't have to include the address. You don't have to include the agent name. Just tell us what doesn't look right on the property, and then we can go ahead and correct it from there. All right, some of the upcoming things that you're going to see after, again, this will be after the cutover in April 4th, you're going to notice that you have more tools in your toolbox. And by the way, we kind of refer to it as a toolbox around here because I'm kind of that person who moved my cheese. I like everything in one spot so I can go to it quickly. So under resources, you're going to have more resources to choose from. And one that I think you're really going to like is the single property website. This is a great way after you've added your listing into Paragon without having to do anything additional, that you can have this great property website built that's going to allow you to share your listing onto social media. But not only that, it always kind of bothers me when I see agents working so hard, they're taking great photos, they're writing these great comments, and then they share it out onto, they share it from an IDX site or they share it from Zillow, and now they're simply giving away all their hard work to someone who may have just bought that zip code. The nice thing about the single property website is it's only sharing your information. And by the way, it's also showing your other listings and closed successes. So if I click on property inventory links, and you'll notice Brian does a great job of kind of organizing them so we can find them easily. If I go to my social media and lead gen tools, I'll see property inventory links. Now, I never get the fancy listings. I'm just going to be totally honest. I always get the fixer-uppers or the hoarder specials lately. So my friend Tom Lipinski, he lists a lot more beautiful homes. So I'm going to borrow his for just a moment. But right under those property resource links, when I'm ready to start working on social media and I'm starting to promote my new listing, I can simply choose the listing I want. They're all there for me. So all of your inventory is there. And it's going to create a customized site just for that specific property. Now, the nice thing is no matter who shares this property, it's going to share that agent's information. Now, a couple cool things this does. In Paragon now, in your My RealTORS Paragon, you have a spot for a branded tour, an unbranded tour, a virtual and video tour. But on the single property website, if you have done a branded tour, and branded just means that it can contain your contact information, maybe you're standing in front of the home and you're saying, hi, I work for such and such, this is my cell phone number, would love to put you in the home, whatever it happens to be. As long as you remember to put those tours in the right field so that they're labeled properly, it's going to create a virtual or branded virtual tour on your single property website. So when you share that out, people will have your information and even more about the house. They can also schedule a showing. Now, by the way, this does not schedule it in showing time. It just sends you, the agent, an email. But I like the look of this. One, I like the look of the house. It's stunning, but I like the easy to read layout. It's what our buyers are looking for, right? Everything is easy to read. What's the square footage? 7 bathrooms, 5 bedrooms. All of the lot dimensions are listed down below, as well as the features. There is a QR code, there's a map, there's a way to get a hold of Tom and ask questions about the property. But as I scroll down, I'm not promoting some other company and some other agent. I'm really promoting all of my active listings as well as my sold and pending listings. Over here to the right, when I'm now ready to share this to social media, you're going to see your social media buttons along the right-hand side. Let's say I wanted to share this to Facebook, which is just one of the options. And by the way, as you see, the agent's listings at the bottom, they do change, and he's got quite a bit of inventory as well as sold, so those will be changing, and they'll see different listings coming across. So when I'm ready to go ahead and share this to Facebook, I'm going to hit that share button. And if you have a Facebook business page, which I hope you do because that follows the NAR rules, you can actually share it right here to a page that you manage. You could send it in Messenger to someone. You could share it in a group or on a company page, and then you're going to write your call to action. I love the way this opens up. It opens up the exact way I showed you. It's got the nice big photo, so it looks very appealing and makes it really easy to share information about your new listings. Again, there is really nothing you need to do here. This is done directly from what you're inputting into Paragon. You will get an email within about an hour of putting that listing in, and it will let you know that your single property website is there and ready to be shared. And again, if you have any questions, I do see we got a hand up. If you do have your hand up, go ahead and type it in the questions box. It's just a little easier, and then we can go ahead and address it that way. So that is your single property website, a great new tool. One of the things I also really like is I was showing houses in St. Clair Shores over by the lake 2 weekends ago, and my buyer said to me, Colleen, there's a little evidence of water down here in the basement. Remember, HomeSnap is your MLS platform on your phone. The nice thing about using HomeSnap is with the integration that Brian has built, not only can you edit your listings from HomeSnap in the palm of your hand, but you'll see the property disclosures. And I loved this because the buyer said, so was this from the big flooding St. Clair Shores had, or was this like a sub pump thing? I could literally pull up the property disclosures on my phone. You can blow them up or expand them so that you can read them, but I can also share them to the buyer standing next to me so that he can review them on his phone. So now with HomeSnap, you're going to get some additional functionality, and we'll be starting those HomeSnap classes as soon as HomeSnap is available. And I think, what did we say, Brian? We think toward the end of April?
Yeah, I mean, they have HomeSnap today.
Right,
so, I mean,
but the new features will be available, what, end of April though?
Yeah.
Okay. So around end of April, again, we'll start those classes up, and that will allow you to go in, and it'll allow you to see those property disclosures and share them with your buyer and edit your listings. There's a whole lot more functionality that you'll have access to. All right, it looks like we have a question. Do you mind going over how you got to that single property website again? Sure, no problem. Again, it won't be there just yet. This will be right after the April 4th date, but all I did to get there, let me back up a little bit, is think of it as resources is your new toolbox. And under your new toolbox, you will see property inventory links. That's all the links to all your single property websites. So again, all you'll do is you will click on that. It will take you to all of your listed properties. And by the way, you don't have to just share your active listings. So I have Tom Lipinski, actually one on his team, said, you know, we took an offer for, I think it was 15 grand over asking. And he wanted to say, you know, we got this done in one weekend. We had 72 showings, and we went pending, and my homeowner's so happy. You can actually promote your solds and your pendings too. So keep in mind, you don't have to just promote your for sales. If you got a really good offer and you got a really happy seller, you might want to say something like that on social media. So you can also promote your pendings and your closed too. Okay, so to answer the question, it's just under resources. Kind of think of here going forward, resources is where all of your tools are going to be. Things like your recorded webinars, you're going to be able to go to our YouTube channel from that. You're going to see the property inventory links, and there will be more things that we're adding down the way. So think of that resources as your toolbox, if you will. One of the things that Brian has worked so hard and that I love is that everything is fully integrated into Paragon. I don't want to have to go into all different programs to find the information. So when he was talking about, and I apologize, it does look like a trash can. I give Brian a lot of ribbing about this all the time. Each one of these colorful little icons does something specific. It takes you into a different program for this specific address. So as I mentioned, if I go to the trash can here, if you will, it's really going into the BS&A record. Now, again, with your situation, if you're required to pay for that record, you're still going to see that pop up that asks for that information. But what it does is it's taking you right there. Instead of having to log out, log into BS&A, type in the address, and do all of that extra. So what I would do is I would click on that trash can, if you will, or government pillar that he squished onto the little button. And that's going to take me right into BS&A for that specific record. So you can see how fast that is. Now I can go in and get tax information. We actually have a lot of areas down here that even have unpaid water bills or assessing attached to it. So now I can scroll through and I can get all of that information. By the way, when we start teaching the cloud classes, the cloud CMA classes, we'll even show you how to bring that great information into your cloud CMA report, adding it right in the front. So it's all part of the great presentation that you're giving, so they can see exactly where you got all of your information from. So again, you're going to see a lot more of those colorful icons here. You'll also see, of course, cloud property reports. You will see mortgage payment calculators. You'll also see the associated documents here coming shortly, and then history. And of course, as Brian mentioned, after the 4th, you'll be scheduling all of your appointments right through showing time. Another important thing that we're going to be teaching full classes on, so don't worry, I'm kind of doing a highlight reel, if you will, is the fact that you will have the Collab Center. And I'm a huge fan of the Collab Center. I like it because as the agent, I can see exactly what's going on with a contact. So we're going to be teaching the Collab Center from beginning to end. But basically, if you've never used the Collab Center before, what the Collab Center is basically a portal that is directly sending out new listings with the criteria that matches that buyer. And in today's market where we have no inventory, it's immediately sending that listing so that they can see it right away and then decide if that's something that they want to go and see. Now, it does some really cool stuff, and Brian's done a great job with this. From here, I'm just going to kind of show this backwards. I kind of want to show you what the buyer actually sees. So I'm going to go ahead and use this particular buyer here. So let's pretend for a moment we've got our new buyer set up. We've created a search. Maybe he's looking for a 2-car garage with a finished basement. You know, you can even put in special types of financing. You can pick the areas. And of course, he's now starting to get those new matches. So when they get these properties delivered, they can go ahead and click on the View Detail button. And this is, of course, going to allow them to see everything from the Google Street View, where they can literally walk down the street. They can see the bedrooms, bathrooms, but it does something else. It, of course, gives them the basic MLS information. It gives them the room sizes, the dimensions, the floor coverings, all that good stuff. But right here, they can ask you a question as their agent. But they can also request a showing. Now, what I tell my buyers to do, and by the way, I've had a lot of good luck getting buyers off of Zillow and using this because I explain that Zillow is a feed, and a lot of times that information can be outdated. You know, so many times they call you up and they say, hey, Colleen, why didn't you send me 123 Main Street down there? I saw it on Zillow this morning. And of course, we look it up and it closed 30 days ago, right? So I say, you know what, Mr. Buyer, let me set you up with something even better. Let me set you up with the MLS tool that we agents use. So you can actually see things up to the minute. In this hot market, you don't want to miss anything. And so once you get them accustomed that this is the actual MLS platform, it makes sense. So what I ask them to do is simply favorite any listing that they want to see. I also ask them to put in the time where it said schedule showing, because then I don't have to turn around and call them. I can literally say, oh yeah, they're available at 5 tomorrow. I can start the scheduling process. So let's say for a moment they went in and they favorited. They could ask questions, they could reject. By the way, a husband and wife or a spouse or a partner, they can all share an account. So you can add another significant other onto the contact record. The important point here is once they've gone in and they've favorited the property, they've looked at it, they said, yep, this is the one, Colleen, that we want to see. They can also right here request the showing time, which simply emails me when they're available. So I don't have to go in now and call them and say, okay, when are you guys available? I can see it right when it's emailed to me. Now, the beauty here is the agent now has all the information to set up the showing time cards. Now, I don't know if everybody's familiar with the showing time cards, so we're going to kind of start there. I'm going to jump back into Paragon for a moment. But the showing time cards are really set up so you can show multiple properties all on one convenient screen. It makes it so much easier. It routes you, by the way, and it gives you turn-by-turn directions that you can send on to your buyer, which I love. So my client went in, he got the homes that were meeting his criteria. Now he's told me that he has 6 favorites right here. By the way, you can see when you added them to the Collab Center, you can see when they last logged in, and you can even see when the last notifications were sent to them. But here's where it gets really fun. So the buyer says, yep, I want to see these particular homes. I'm going to click on the number of favorites. Now, of course, I could text these over to him. I could just click the text button, send them right to his phone. But really what I want to do is I want to throw these into my showing time cards. Now, I apologize. Some of you may be familiar with showing time cards, but it always amazes me when I'm teaching how many people have never used them. And I swear they save me hours of time. So I'm just going to cover it quickly. So I'm going to say that we want to show our buyer these 6 properties. I'm going to go up to where Brian has hidden the easy button, by the way. I wish it was in a little more plain sight, but basically where this actions or plugin, if you will, actions, think of that like your easy button. That's where Brian has sort of hid the showing time cards. So we're going to go into showing time. And basically it's now going to take all those properties and allow me to start a cart, to throw them in. So I'm going to create a new showing cart. And it's also going to ask me, well, when do you want to show this? I'm going to say I want to show it tomorrow. And I can even put in a buyer that I want to show it to. Now, this is really cool because it does allow you to track how many homes you've shown to your buyer. Brian and I have a very good mutual friend who literally, I kid you not, you can't make this up, showed 99 homes. It was crazy. She's a saint, I think, but literally at home 70, she printed off how many, in showing time you can do that, you can print off how many properties you've shown. She slid it very nicely in front of them and she said, okay, I think we're either going to have to decrease our haves and wants or probably increase our price range quite a bit. So, and then when they saw how many homes they were looking at, it was kind of like a light bulb moment. And then shortly after that, they did find their home. So sometimes it's nice when you can use that as a tool. But I'm going to say I'm going to show these properties to Barry Buyer, but here's where it gets really cool. Because you guys are covering a lot more area right now, remember, you don't want to have to drive all over the place. As you can see, this has kind of got me driving zigzag because it's dropping them in from the MLS. So what I want to do is I simply want to hit that smart route here. And now it's going to reroute those properties in the logical order. So I'm not driving all over the place. That wouldn't make sense. What's even better though, is that it's also telling me how long it's going to take to drive from property 1 to property 2. Now we are seeing, because there's such a low amount of inventory, my best friend listed a house, I kid you not, Friday, they had 75 showings. She had 11 offers on the property. So her windows of showing time were 30-minute, some are doing 15 minutes, some are doing 30 these days. So it's very important to know how long it's going to take to drive from property A to property B. It's also really important to know, is this going to require an appointment or is it a go and show? Meaning I'm going to get the lockbox right away. And so the nice thing is if we're running out the door to see something quickly, I might want to start at a go and show because I know I'm going to immediately get the lockbox versus having to wait for a homeowner or a listing agent to confirm an appointment. Then from here, all I have to do is pick my times. So I'm going to say for a moment that I'm going to show this at 10:15. I can see it's a 15-minute appointment window here. Now I'm going to go ahead and schedule my next appointment. I know that it's a 15-minute drive time. It's at 13 minutes. I'm going to give myself 15 minutes because I'm kind of a slow driver. So I'm going to say I want to do my next one at 11 to 11:15. So the idea is you can schedule them all very quickly and very easily, and you can see exactly the times you're scheduling. You can also do things like add another listing stop. Maybe you're going to take a referral to lunch and you want to add that address in there too. Or, I swear I always get the kind of crazy buyers. I get the whole tour set up and then I'm walking out the door and they say, great news, Colleen, we found one more house. So the good news is you can add another house to your tour as well. Then you can send all the requests at one time to be confirmed. And I can even create those great turn-by-turn directions that I can send over to my buyer so he knows exactly what house we're going to first, second, and third, and it creates it out for him. It makes it so much easier. All right, so those are some of the things we're going to be covering, talking about the Collab Center and the showing time integration that's built in there. So hopefully if you were using the Collab Center and showing time, hopefully you picked up a couple little tips and tricks there. There's also some great tools in the Collab Center as far as if you have, and I just had this happen with a good friend of mine. I had a buyer, they were only looking in St. Clair Shores. They said, Colleen, they must have said it 25 times. But as we know in this market, sometimes what a buyer thinks they're going to buy isn't actually what they close on, right? So they had said no less than 20 times, we're going to stay in St. Clair Shores. We only want to see properties in St. Clair Shores. Of course, I set up their search in St. Clair Shores. My best friend, Dawn Waldrop, listed a house one street away in the neighboring city. So it didn't pop up automatically in their Collab Center. But there's an agent recommended button. So you, the agent, can make something pop up and say, your agent recommended. That's exactly what we did. Dawn told me about the property the day she was listing it. I immediately sent it over to them. They saw all the photos and all the great information, and that's actually the one we closed on. So agent recommended is fantastic. As I mentioned, though, I do get some crazy buyers. I think it's the crazy hair or something. But what happened was I had a referral sent to me, and she called and she said, Colleen, if you send me one more yellow-sided house, I swear I'm going to get another agent. And first of all, I didn't know she didn't like yellow siding. She had never mentioned that. But two, there is no button in the MLS that says no yellow siding, right? So if you have a little bit more of a specific buyer, you can actually do an agent preview that allows you to get them first as the agent, and then it allows you to hit approve to go on to that buyer who might be a little more choosy. So we cover all of that in the Collab Center class. And so we'll take you through A to Z. Do remember that you can now also share listings via the Collab Center and via text right from in Paragon. And with that, I want to talk about some of the new searching options too. So as Brian mentioned, there'll be a few changes in your fields, but one thing that I would recommend is you take a look at the features because you're going to have more features and more reports now. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that I'm setting up a buyer, maybe even in the Collab Center, and I'm going to do a search for him. You're going to see fields, and if I go over here to the right, if I'm not sure what that specific field is calling for, remember you can click on that magnifying glass and it will call out exactly what that field is asking for. So let's say this particular buyer is looking for a single family home. We're obviously looking for actives. I'm not looking for rents or for leases, if you will. I'm only looking for properties for sale. Maybe I know they're looking for a one-story or a ranch, but maybe there are certain things that he's really looking for as far as features. And I really like this. So if you haven't played with the features, remember you'll have a lot of features in here. One of the features that Brian and I recently realized that you had that you may not see in here, but we're going to be adding that for you, is in our last class, we were told a lot of people use electric at street or electric at property, I think it was. And so keep in mind, Brian went in, he looked at the Rezo dictionary, we can add that. And then there was another one, I think it was whole house generator that you guys had. So we thought those were great. We'd love to have them here too. So we'll be adding those. So if you see a feature that you use quite often that in the new Paragon you're not seeing, please let us know. That's part of your homework. If there's anything that we've missed, anything that's different, this is the time to tell us so we can go ahead and add that in for you. But features work like this. There's basically 3 types. Must have. Maybe you have a buyer who says, Colleen, we have to have a finished basement, or we have to have an in-ground pool. I can go ahead and type that in. That means if I'm setting this buyer up in the collab center, it's only going to go to them if it has that particular item. I unfortunately, where I am in Macomb County, we have a well and septic ordinance where it actually has to pass an inspection before you can close on the property. So I had a very nice seller, and the seller said to me, Colleen, I just found out I have to put a $17,000 raised engineered septic field in. In my new house, I don't want to see anything on a septic field. So in this case, I would go in and I would type in must not have a septic field. And that would mean anything with a septic field would not go to her automatically. But then there's those challenging ones, like must have one or more. Maybe you have a homeowner who owns his own business and he either needs a pole barn on the property or a workshop. You could do pole barn and workshop. Must have at least one of those so that it will go over to that buyer. Now, if you're not sure what all the new features are, which I wouldn't be, you'd have to go ahead and just click on that magnifying glass, and it's actually going to open up all of those features by category so that they're really easy to find. But one of the categories that I did want to bring up was financing. It's probably the #1 question I get. And it's, if my buyer wants to only buy something via land contract, how do I see stuff that has just been labeled land contract? Let me make sure I'm still connected. There we go. So if it's something easy, like your buyer wants a finished basement, that's pretty easy, right? We go to basement type, we find finished, must have finished basement, wham, really easy. But then there's those times where maybe a buyer is looking, like I'm working with a buyer right now, he only buys land contract. That's all he's ever bought. That's just how he does it. So if I go to financial terms, if I'm looking for something that the homeowner is willing to sell on a land contract, I can check must have land contract terms. But then there's those times over here by Lake St. Clair where I may have a buyer who says, you know what, I've got a boat. I don't care, you know, if the lakefront is great, but if I can't have lakefront, I have to be able to put my boat in. So maybe I say, okay, canal frontage would work, lake frontage would work, river frontage would work. If it has any one of those, it's going to go over to my prospective buyer. So keys to just making it simple, just has to have one of those. Couple other things to note. And this came up in our last class, so I just want to point it out. There are a lot of cities that are named the same thing. So I had a person, I think it was out of Marquette. I want to say it was out of Houghton. I'm sorry. They called and they said there was a particular city that was listed several times. How did they know which was the Houghton they were looking for? And I thought that was a great question, because believe me, when I found out there were 5 Clinton townships in Michigan, I was very confused. Like, how do I know what's the right Clinton township? So as you can see, when I type in Clinton Township, I have 4 Clinton townships. How do I know which is the right one? Well, the answer is the identifier, the first 2 digits in front, are actually going to identify the county it's located in. So for instance, I'm in Macomb County. So if I type in Macomb, I can see that 50 is the front number. If I'm looking for the Clinton Township in the 50, and by the way, if you just put the county in, that's the only one I see, right? But if I were to take the county out and I know that the 50 is the front one, I know this is going to be the Macomb County Clinton Township. So I want to use his example. So he was in Houghton. He said, okay, Colleen, which one of those Houghtons is the Houghton I want to search for? So I said, here's what you do. Simply go to the county and find the identifier, which is clearly 31. Now, when I go to area and I start typing in Houghton, I'm only going to see the Houghtons that have that 31 area code. Basically telling me these are the right cities he was looking for. So if you get confused, because remember, you're seeing almost the state now. I'm not seeing it in that small term anymore. We're looking at it having those properties available coast to coast. So you will see some of the same cities. I had no idea how many there were actually. Lastly, if you're searching by map, let's talk a little bit about that. So buyers today are kind of searching all over. They're searching larger areas. So keep in mind a buyer in the Collab Center can do their own search, or you can do a search for that particular buyer. And I'm going to kind of move in a little bit closer to an area that I can show you a couple more examples here. So I'm just going to go into my map. By the way, this map, if you're doing comps, you could type in your subject property address and you could even choose mile, 2 miles, 3 miles from it. It does some really cool things. But I'm going to jump over to Sterling Heights here for a moment. I'm going to take off these layers so it's not quite so confusing. All right, so I'm looking at Sterling Heights here and I'm working with my buyer, and my buyer says, you know what, Colleen, I want to live south of 17 Mile. Okay, so I'm going to draw. I'm literally going in and I'm just clicking my mouse to start and stop my lines. But he says, you know what, I don't want to cross Van Dyke Highway. And by the way, my mother-in-law lives over here by Plumbrook, so let's just stay not too close. Let's stay on this side of Plumbrook. I can literally go in, and we had a tech who was really good. He could actually draw a unicorn with this. It was really cool. But you could actually do up to 10 shapes on the map. And what's very neat about this is not only can you do all different shapes. So let's say he's looking over here. I move my map a little. He's looking at a subdivision over here. So I can literally go in and draw the exact shapes of where this buyer is looking. Some other cool things, because you're covering a bigger area, remember you can also use this little Google man. And, you know, we all see him, but I don't think anyone really uses him because I didn't know what it was for, at least. But you can literally drag that little Google man right into a neighborhood. So if you're showing properties an hour away and you kind of want to see what does that neighborhood look like, you literally can do a 360 view in that neighborhood and walk down the streets. So I can literally see, is this on a cul-de-sac? You know, it looks like a cute little brick neighborhood, and I literally can walk down the street. So using those map searches have never been easier. Now, the big key right now is that, remember, in this time, if you're getting a listing, as Brian mentioned, you're going to want to get that into the UPAR Paragon before April 1st. And after that, April 4th in the morning, as Brian mentioned, you'll be able to go in. You can add anything else at that time. You will also see a lot more of the products coming and training on each one of those products. We'll also be introducing a listing class the next day that will show you how to add your listings in even quicker. We'll show you how you have something very cool that will allow you to pull your listings even in from the tax records. So in all 83 counties of Michigan. So a lot of cool stuff. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because you're now going to have new data sheets, because there are going to be more fields, and fields again that are specific to you. We want to show you where those data sheets will be. So as I mentioned, we're recording this, but we've also given you this MLS documents where you can find all the data sheets. You can find everything that you need, the conversion handout. So if you haven't gotten it out of the GoToWebinar panel, don't worry. If you lost yours down the road, you can go back to this MLS documents at the top of Paragon. And by the way, you won't see all of this. You will just see a folder called the Upper Peninsula Association of Realtors. This is that conversion file that I mentioned that Brian did for you. So if you forget the dates or you just need a refresher, that's here. If you go to the MLS data sheets, and I do want to point this out, there is one, a lot of people said, I clicked on the UPAR data sheet and it's one page. And you're right, there are now 2 data sheets, because remember you had some additional fields Like one of them was ski resort name, trail side. Those were really unique to your area. So when you're doing your data input or your entry, this is one of the sheets that you can use to add in that information, but you're still going to want to continue to use the traditional data sheet. There's one for residential, commercial, multifamily, vacant land. So keep in mind, you still have your traditional data sheet that you're going to fill out, but there is that single page for anything additional, like ski resort, trail side, some of the things that were just specifically unique to you. So I'm going to go ahead and let this open, and you can see I like the data sheet a lot. I think it's even easier to add information in. I love that all the features are laid out in a nice, easy format. As you'll see, you can kind of go down, check, check, check. I think it's even easier than adding it directly into Paragon. So, anyway, so went through all of that. Brian, did I miss anything? I know we covered a lot and we're just about out of time. Is there anything else you wanted me to cover?
I can't think of anything. One thing that I want to make clear to everyone is the fact that once we switch on April 4th, no data will go back to your old system. So I just want to make sure everyone thinks that, it's not going to go away. Well, yeah, it's going to be there for months and months, that we can continue to look at it just to make sure we didn't miss anything. But anything entered in the new MLS system will not go to the old MLS system.
All right. If you have any last minute questions, now would be a great time to ask them. Again, if you have any questions about logging in, Brian gave you the login. Basically, it's your same username, same password. The only difference is that username now contains the capital UP. And the dates, all the important information are going to be in that conversion guide that Brian gave you. But the big takeaway is, don't wait till the last minute to log in. Please go in, take a look at your listings. We do want to make sure that this is as smooth as possible for you. So please log into the new system. Again, it's just UP, your old Paragon login, and your old Paragon password. All right, I think that's all I have. Oh, wait, question popped up. How will addresses that start with to be determined be handled? So it's a great question.
Yeah, you can add those. We get those all the time for vacant land. So it's no different in the Lower Peninsula as it is in the Upper Peninsula. So it's just, you put the TBD in the street number field. The street number field is actually alphanumeric. It's not uncommon to have a street number start with a letter. So yes, you could put TBD in the street number.
All right, any other questions? That was a really good question. We had some really good questions this class.
And if you think of it later, just send it to support, or ask your board, and they can forward it on to a support. Another question?
Yes. Can it be made to show all other prior listings? I'm not sure what that means.
You're referring to history. I mean, the history works the same way. It joins based on the address and property ID. So if it was listed, it might be a little difficult for vacant land that doesn't have a full address. Well, that's a big if. I mean, it would tie together all the TBDs at that road or street. So,
Gotcha.
However it's done currently in your system, I would suspect it's going to do exactly the same in this one.
Good questions, though. All right. Well, again, I hope you enjoy going into Paragon. Please do take a look at your listings. I hope you will attend. We've got the Collab Center class coming up. We also, again, recorded this. You can find this in our YouTube playlist under the Upper Peninsula Association of Realtor playlist. And I think that's all my notes. I didn't have anything else. So other than that, hope you have a great day and happy selling, everybody.